Good morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Thursday. I hope it finds you well out there. Just a great day here in the Valley of the Sun in the year of chaos. And wow, chaos is really the word of the day. Big game tonight. Well, big game for me. Syracuse Pitt. Yeah, 6-0 Pitt, 5-1 Syracuse. I don't remember the last time either of these two programs was good. It's a football game for those of you that don't know. Of course, born and raised in Syracuse. I bleed orange. Our football program, well, let's face it, has not been very good for a very long time. And even our basketball program, we're a basketball school, hasn't been very good. But we'll see how it goes tonight. So, go Orange! Go Orange! 800-951-0592 is our toll-free number. AllAmericanGold.com. That is the website. Get all kinds of articles and videos keeping you in the know. A little calmer market today. As yesterday I told you, buy the dips, buy it hard, buy it as fast as you can. Gold's rallying, silver's down a few cents, but it's not going to last. The Dow had a rough day yesterday, down again today. We did get some economic data. Like I said, it's not a huge economic data week. Jobless claims, that's the one we want, jobless claims, 227,000 is the number on the jobless claims, and I think that's about right? The hurricane aftermath is over, 227 on jobless claims, but it was continuing claims that gave hope for more rate cuts as continuing claims hit a 3-year high. So the people that are getting laid off are saying, well, a little harder getting work. Then we did get some manufacturing data out, and it was bad. It was all bad. Continued contraction in manufacturing. And then we had the beige book. So the central bank, for those of you that don't know, they have 12 regions. So us here in the West, Colorado, Arizona, right? We're part of the San Francisco Federal Reserve, but there's 12 regions, and every month they release this thing. It's called the Beige Book, where they, say, okay, here's the feedback that we're getting, and by and large, very flat. In other words, what they're saying is, if we have growth, it's minimal. All of the regions were saying that manufacturing has been extremely difficult and still issues with prices. So that was kind of the data today. Nothing either way. Nothing really big to say you can't cut rates anymore, and nothing really big to say you can't. Right? So I'll call it middle of the road. Tomorrow we're going to get the GDP report. And Jason, I sent it. So Jason's like, hey, you haven't sent me the link. I sent a link. I don't know if you've gotten it yet. Oh, there he is. I see him popping on now. But I think that the big news happened yesterday. We had another issue with a 20-year auction. We had this long tail again. Having said that, at least the foreigners were there. The rest of it was okay. They just want more, right? They want more money to buy U.S. debt. And words out of Israel's defense minister yesterday, very strong language coming out of Israel as to when this strike is going to occur, and saying that the world is going to see the might of Israel. And so I don't know. We'll see. There's conflicting reports. I think they're going for a kill shot with Iran because that's what they've been doing with Hezbollah and Hamas. But the fact that they haven't responded yet, it's interesting. Jason and I were talking about this today. They said that they were going to go before the election. But, Jason, you're saying they may wait to see who wins. I don't know. You're saying if Trump wins, maybe they don't strike. Could be interesting. I think if they're worried about Trump winning, that they would strike before. That's just my opinion because I think that it would be something where I think for Donald Trump anyway, if Israel really goes hard at Iran and people start worrying about World War III, I would think that would get voters to vote for Trump. That's just my opinion.
There's a couple of ways to look at it, isn't there? I mean, I think much more support from Trump. So if they believe he's going to win, maybe they just take it easy because then if they have to do anything after the election, they can do whatever they want. But if they felt like they weren't going to get as much support from the other side winning, they might want to strike now and cause the election to change in the last few days. So we'll see, Joe. I know that Israel would love to have Donald Trump as president. That fits what they want to do. So I have a feeling Trump is going to win. I think Trump's going to win. I think Trump has been chosen anyways for a long time. But something's going to happen. They've got it all set up for a nice big conflict, don't they?
Yep. And when we get back, another restaurant chain announcing massive closures. And Bloomberg now reporting, do we have liquidity issues in the treasury markets? That answer is pretty simple. Yeah. We're back here, the Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason on this Thursday. A quick look in at the markets. The Dow's down 130. The S&P's up 12. The Nasdaq's up 100. We did get bad news out of Apple today, saying that the iPhones are just not selling, going to cut by 10 million phones. What's one of the biggest cuts I can remember. And then Denny's announcing their growth strategy. I love this. Their growth strategy, we're going to close 150 stores. That is the growth strategy coming out of Denny's. Listen, the restaurant bankruptcies piling up. And remember, we talked about it the other day, the unrealized losses on these banks' balance sheets are continuing to get very worse. I think this is probably why you see Buffett dumping Bank of America stock. And he's been dumping Apple, too, by the way. We haven't even reported that. He's been selling Apple stock as much as he's been selling Bank of America stock. The 10-year note after that auction last night got as high as 426. It's down to 420 today. A little breath. I mean, this thing's been on a rocket ship straight up. But we'll continue to watch this bond market. Liquidity, and really lack of liquidity continuing to plague the U.S. debt markets. And remember I said to you yesterday, something's not right. Having a hard time wanting to being able to put my finger on it. We looked at the Japanese yen again yesterday. There's a crisis brewing, and it looks like it's going to hit the treasury markets. We're going to get to that in a minute. Gold's up 18 right now, 27.35, and we'll see how it plays out. I'm anticipating we're going to, again, that 27.50 level. We close above it. We're going to hit 28, and we'll do it very quickly. Silver, you have a great opportunity. We had a pullback yesterday. Right now, silver's flat. I don't think it's going to stay flat. It's been above $34 again. Right now, $33.70 on silver. So there are still some opportunities in the silver markets before the price goes much, much higher. But get diversified. Believe me when I tell you, this is something where when we get to this liquidity issue with Bloomberg, you'll understand, hopefully, what's coming. I'm more convinced than ever quantitative easing is coming much sooner than people think. That's not good. That is not a good thing. BRICS, Xi Jinping, this morning, we don't have a lot of intel coming out of BRICS. Yesterday they did a bunch of war stuff. He announced this morning, BRICS, we're ready to invite more members, right? That's that de-dollarization trend. Get more diversified. We're going to have issues selling debt. That's obvious to see. It's going to make it very difficult to get big returns on Wall Street when yields won't go down. Get up to 10.25% fixed rate of return with our friends at YRefi, not correlated to Wall Street. Guess what? YRefi does not care about the 10-year note. Doesn't care about Treasury liquidity either. It doesn't. Doesn't care about war. Doesn't care about Israel's defense minister. Doesn't care about Iran. Doesn't care who becomes president. 10.25 fixed rate of return. You got all the tools. You can use it as income. You can compound it. You can change. You can start compounding it. Go do that for 2 or 3 years and then turn it into income. Whatever you want to do. Check them out. InvestYRefi.com. Or just call them at 888-YRefi24, 888-973-3924. Remember those of you that got the IRAs. YRefi, you got to have at least $50,000, but you can use existing IRAs. If I was you right now, I'd be looking at that IRA and I'd be taking some of that, setting up a gold and silver IRA. Call us for that. I'd be calling YRefi. Get smart. Get smart. Simon White from Bloomberg. Liquidity in the U.S. Treasury market is set to deteriorate further due to an array of what he describes as self-reinforcing factors. What does that mean, self-reinforcing factors? Well, simply put, what he's trying to say is, listen, this is the path they put us on. We're in a massive debt cycle. We got to keep reissuing. You got to remember, before the end of the year, the Treasury's going to make an announcement. We got to reboost the checkbook. Oh yeah, and sometime in January, February, whatever, we got to increase auction sizes. And guess what? In 2025, they're probably going to have to do that more than once, increasing the auction sizes. Liquidity is the lifeblood of the markets. Without pricing less reflects fundamentals, but rather the ability or the willingness of market participants to trade an asset. Now, that's a lot. That's a really powerful sentence. Because what he said was, hey, pricing will be less about fundamentals. So what does that mean? Well, look at what we have here. The Fed is saying, hey, we're cutting rates. Right? We're cutting rates, which means the yields should go down. But the yields aren't. Right? And he's saying, hey, we're going to get a lot more of this because lack of ability or lack of willingness of market participants to trade the asset. right? So, Jason, what he's talking about here is the dealers of these auctions, right? And we know who they are, right? The big banks. They've been forced to buy these assets, right? And remember, part of Dodd-Frank, right? You got to have X amount of your reserves in what they call a Tier 1 asset. Of course, our banks won't buy gold. Gold's a Tier 1 asset. So are treasuries, right? So are treasuries. But they're running out of money to be able to do it. So that's the ability part, right? So when he talks about the ability, that's what he's talking about. The willingness are what we'll call the non-dealers, okay? So that can be, obviously, the foreigners. We know the situation there. And then what we call the indirects. That's going to be hedge funds, Jason, money markets, right? Stuff like that, insurance companies. Are they going to be willing to buy the treasuries? And so both of these things are factors now. And what Bloomberg is saying is the less liquidity there is, the more this becomes a problem, and it won't reflect what they would consider to be normal fundamentals. This is not a good picture whatsoever, and I think we're seeing that starting to play out. And this is the best example I can give. Rates are up almost 60 basis points since the Fed cut 50 basis points. That's a terrible thing. Could you imagine if they cut again and rates go even higher? I mean, could you imagine that scenario?
Well, that's the question will be what were they going to do? What are they going to do on the next decision? Right? Are they going to cut? And I think they're going to push it. I think they're going to cut again. But I guess the 50 basis point cuts, they'll probably be a lot more conservative if they cut it. It might be a quarter point just because they don't. What are they, like you said, what are they going to do if they cut and it goes up again, especially if they're going to cut it as big as 50 basis points? But I don't know. Sometimes these guys are pretty pushy, right, Joe? They might say, hey, we're going to force these things down. You're going to follow us no matter what. I don't know, Joe.
Yeah, and there's a couple of indexes that we need to look at. One is the MOVE index. And according to Bloomberg, the Treasury Liquidity Index, it keeps getting worse. In other words, according to Bloomberg, the liquidity in this market continuing to decline. And here's the problem. You didn't need a ton of liquidity 10, 15 years ago. Right? Because, the debt was, 10 trillion, 15 trillion. Right? You didn't need huge amounts of liquidity. Right now, we should have the most liquidity ever. Right? Because, let's face it, the markets are bigger than ever. Concerns about liquidity have persisted since the pandemic. Jason and I, we've told you, right, a lot of money got created then, a lot. And they're saying that since the pandemic, liquidity has not come back. And they're saying that the measures show that a market is unable to return to its pre-pandemic norms. The order book depth. Okay, so this is, what is order book? Order book is, okay, this is where they go to submit their bids, right? They're submitting their bids. Hey, I want blah, blah, blah billion in 10-year notes today, and I'm willing to take it, and here's the rate you got to give me. Much lower than it was in 2019, and they're saying that the most recent fragility in these markets, and they're saying that it's causing increased volatility. The New York Federal Reserve, in a recent paper, now this didn't make, it's so funny, why is this not on TV? They talked about dealer capacity. Okay? So remember, go back to where I started this. And I know this is maybe for some people a little boring. This is not boring. This is huge. Because they talked about ability to absorb. Without the dealers, you know how big these tails would be? It would be off the charts. I'm going to tell you right now, I think without the dealers, we could see a 10-year note at like 5.5%, 6% right now. The authors of the paper said that yield volatility is the primary driver of Treasury liquidity. The dealer balance sheet capacity is become constrained. The amount of inventory dealers have on their balance sheets today is near highs in total relation of outstanding debt. Uh-oh.
Sir. Yes,
800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason on this Thursday. I don't want to get too in the weeds here, Jason, and I feel like I am. I'm going to try to simplify this. Here's what the New York Fed said. We've got a problem because the dealers are holding more U.S. debt, the dealers of these banks, than ever before. And, now, first of all, that would be normal, right? Because we have more debt than ever before. But then they said more debt even in relationship to the amount of debt. So now they're really holding a lot. So not only are they holding a lot in dollar terms, they're holding a huge amount in percentage terms, and they're saying that they're almost out of money. Right? Remember the repo facilities we talked about? And essentially, Jason, this is the storm that they see brewing, that there's going to be a disconnect from fundamentals, i.e. the Fed is going to try to drive rates down by lowering rates, and they won't be able to do so, which to me shouts quantitative easing. And I think at that point, you're going to have gold. Forget about $3,000 gold. We're probably going to have to talk about $4,000 or $5,000 gold because essentially, right, you almost turn into Japan, right, where the central bank has to buy the market. Otherwise, the market really won't be functioning.
What's well put. Japan is a good model for what it looks like we're heading into. Japan has a weak currency. It was not the world reserve currency. Their markets crashed in the 1980s and never really came back. And they've just been buying up the entire country. And that looks like we're at the infancy of heading in that direction. There's some things messed up, Joe. I'm doing the show. I try to stay with the show, but once in a while I open an email while Joe's doing this show, and I'm trying to do two things at once. I try to stick with just the show. But Joe, you tell me, is something wrong with the insurance companies of this country? Is the insurance companies of this country going to collapse? Is that what we're looking at? So here's my little world I'm in, okay? I got my roof done last year, okay? I had some work done, and we had massive hail 2 Mays ago. I didn't get my roof fixed right away, but then my wife and I were looking at solar and a few things, and we decided, well, we better get the roof fixed. And then we had enough damage, we knew that we could put a claim. Now, Joe, you remember this. Several months ago, I got my new homeowner's insurance bill came. It was $1,500 2 years ago when I started with this new company, and then it was moved to $2,500 last year. Well, this year they sent me a bill for $4,500 for 1 year's homeowner's insurance. And I'm thinking, man, that's something. God, I know it's going up, but I mean, really, it's up 3x from 2 years ago. So, of course, I did what anybody should. I have a broker that does my insurance, and they're like, "Could you look around?" She's like, "Oh yeah, we're going to look around." Nationwide. I got Nationwide, and Nationwide, I guess, doesn't like to. They don't kind of want to be in Colorado anymore. Well, we found new insurance, $2,500. Right? No, $2,000. $2,000. I was like, well, we're going for that one, yeah, and then the coverage is even better, So I was like, okay, well, we're gonna shift. Now the roof work was done last year, like late October, November, so not quite a year ago. I was paid in full. That was what I was led to believe. And then the insurance company sends me a check for $2,800. I'm like, well, what is this? So I put the check aside. Doesn't smell right. And now the roofing company, a year later, hey, Mr. Walker, the insurance has squared its bill with us or something. Yeah, you owe us $6,100. Does that something smell wrong to you, Joe? I haven't been through this process very many times, but something smells wrong about the $4,500 bill. Then I switched to a better rate with another company, and then now they send me a check for $2,800. The roofing company sends me a bill for $6,100, and now I'm going to be out $3,300. So I'm going to be on the phone when I get off the air because something's not right. How bad off are these insurance companies? Is the rest of the country dealing with worse than this? Something's wrong. I haven't had insurance long enough. I've never had to deal with anything like this, Joe.
This is going to be – it's only going to get worse. I'm just going to tell everybody out there. I don't care if it's car insurance, homeowners insurance, life insurance, medical insurance. Wait till you see what happens next year, especially when it comes to Medicare and Medicaid. The insurance companies, boy, they missed it. And they know they've missed it, and they're going to adjust. But it's simply flat out, they don't have the money to pay the claims. And part of it is because what do? Well, we buy treasuries. That's what insurance companies are big buyers of treasuries. Well, if you don't get any yield, and I know that, inflation, it's only 2.6%. Yeah, ask the insurance companies, right? And what are they doing? They're pulling out of states. We don't even want to be here anymore. Or, okay, if we're going to be here, hey, the cost is tripled. And then some other guy says, oh, no, we'll take it. And then they're like, whoa, wait a minute. Whoops. Yeah, this has a lot to do with the treasury markets as well. It's funny, the correlations between all of them. And it's going to reflect. We haven't seen it all play out yet. When you got a guy like Tudor Jones talking about a Minsky moment, saying it's just around the corner. When you have T. Rowe Price coming out and saying yields are going to 5, and you're like, wait a minute, but we're in a rate cutting cycle. How can they be going the other way? Right? You're starting to see how that's going to happen. Warren Buffett dumping Bank of America, that's a reflection on all the banks. And the amount of what they call unrealized losses.
Yep.
This pool is massive, and they're allowed to set it aside if they say, well, it's unrealized, but we're going to hold it to term. That only works for a little while. Enough people stop paying, and you're not going to have the ability to hold it to term. The question is, what bank cracks first, right? That's what we don't know. That's what we don't know. When we get back, a big gold special. And what just happened to palladium today? Talk about that coming up next. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Thursday. Today I've got $5 Liberties. Going to save $30 a coin. $750. 2 5s for less than a 10. 2 5s for less than a 10. At 800-951-0592. Keep adding here to your portfolios. If you're looking for 20s, we got 20s at $28.95. But the This just tells you. Remember when 210s was cheaper than a 20? Today, this doesn't happen very often. Very rarely, 2 5s for less than a 10 at $750. This morning, I told Jason, I go, I don't know, something's going on with palladium. I go, it's up $92 today. And I go, I don't know what's up. I do now. According to Bloomberg, the United States has asked the G7 members to sanction Russian palladium. The Russians, they're the biggest palladium supplier in the world. About 40%, I think, of all the palladium comes out of Russia. Of course, palladium used in catalytic converters. You know, the largest buyer of Russian palladium, the Chinese, they use it in their car markets. Some people are saying that, is it possible that palladium could double in just a matter of months? Now, palladium hit a high of over 3,000. Okay, it did. And, of course, remember, I was telling you, sell your palladium, trade it for platinum, right, because that worked out really well. By the way, platinum's up on the news as well. Platinum, almost $1,025 right now. I don't love playing the sanction trades, right? Because you just don't know, right? Is it going to happen? Not going to happen? Is it going to be enforced? Are they going to be able to do it? But if you want, I've got 1 ounce palladium bars. They're $1,295. So $1,295 on palladium bars. Like I said, palladium right now $1,140. So it's not a bad premium or anything like that. But if you want to take a shot here, here's what I would tell you. If you do it, when palladium gets to 2,500 to 3,000, if this happens, because it will if the sanctions really go through, turn around and dump it. Take your profits, buy more platinum, buy gold, buy silver, because as soon as the sanctions come off, right, the price goes right back down again. But there is an opportunity here. Apparently, the United States has made official request to ban Russian palladium, and there's just not enough palladium without Russian supply here. There's just not. The math doesn't work, Jason.
Doesn't it feel like Russia's way ahead on this? Isn't that what it feels like? Didn't they announce that they're going to start putting silver, platinum, and palladium in their strategic holdings a week ago?
Yeah.
And now there's going to be a sanction on essentially what they just said. You know what? We know you're. Doesn't it feel like Russia knew they were going to sanction? We're just going to start.
Oh, I
holding
believe
it?
that for sure. Absolutely for sure. It makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
That's Russia saying, go buy silver, platinum, and palladium. I think that's what I just heard from last week. That's just what it's. These sanctions, are they so toothless? They're so toothless, Joe. Russia will hold their assets. I mean, these are precious metals. They can hold them and watch them skyrocket while nobody's allowed to buy them because, number one, Russia already said we're not going to sell as much because we're going to hold it. So once again, a country's going to hold an asset. It's telling you, well, I'm a small fish, but the big fish is swallowing up palladium. Maybe I should get a couple ounces. Holy cow! I mean, the world's getting backwards. Isn't it?
This is not this is not put your portfolio into it, but this is I want to take a quick flyer here. I want to see if I can double my money, and then if you do, immediately turn around and trade it or sell it, whatever you want to do. But very interesting report now that obviously, what does this tell you? Did you see out of the Ukraine now, over 50,000 Ukrainian service members have walked off the battlefield and said we'd rather be in prison because at least when we're in jail, we'll be able to get out. If we stay here, we're going to be dead. Jason, this thing, I don't know. I don't know how all of this, you got North Korean troops. Now we're saying North Korean troops are in there. This whole thing just seems like it's getting a lot worse. instead of a lot better?
Well, if you allow me to do a little geopolitics, is it that they're going to die in the front line, or is it they're no longer getting paid to be on the front line? If they're no longer getting paid to be on the front line and Trump is coming in to win an election, is going to negotiate an end to the war, these guys are like, well, first of all, I don't think I'm getting paid. Second of all, I could die while I'm not getting paid. So it looks like this Trump guy is going to win and end the war anyways. I don't want to die 3 weeks before this guy comes into office and is going to change this war. That's kind of what it sounds like, Joe. It sounds like that Israel and Ukraine are both saying it looks like Trump's going to win this thing.
Well, Russia that just happened. Just announced they've taken over more land in Ukraine. According to a prominent Ukrainian-born pro-Russian military blogger, the enemy's defenses have crumbled suddenly. Talking about Ukraine's forces crumbling again. Oh, boy. Patriot Radio News Hour. Bye. It's an all-out buy. Just about. I don't know if you can buy. Anything's a bad buy right now. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. Losses picking up now on the Dow, down 260. The S&P has gone negative now, down 3. The NASDAQ still holding on to positive territory, but barely. Gold's up 15. Silver's now down 30 cents. Listen, I got silver back to $8.15. It's a great opportunity here. Jump on it. It's so hard because I think everything, the $20 gold, $28.95, great buy. $5 Liberty, $7.50, great buy. Silver Eagles, $8.15. And now palladium bars, 1 ounce palladium bars, $1,295. As word is, I think this is what we're up against. This is what we're going to see. As this whole thing just continues to, blow up in our face here, I think we're going to see a lot more inflation coming as the war has not gone the way they've wanted it to go. I think the Israeli situation still left to see what happens. I don't know. We're speculating. Based on their defense minister's comments, they're going for a big blow here to Iran. We'll see how it plays out. Now the United States, we want even more sanctions. And you got to understand, this affects everything. It's not like palladium just goes in catalytic converters. All the green stuff, all of it. Electric cars, solar panels, right? All these wind farms, all this other stuff. This is huge. And Jason, how soon until, I don't know if it's European forces, U.S. forces, I'm sure we have troops there somewhere. Obviously we know we got troops in Israel. How soon until, are we going to have World War III start playing out here?
I don't think so. I just think that there has to be money spent on a war. World War III, I don't know. If it's the war against the citizens, I think we've been at World War III for a couple of decades now. That's what it feels like, Joe. And the less holdouts against the world banking system there are, which there are few left, it means that economically we're going to get squeezed hard. I keep saying dark ages, Joe. Dark ages is lords and peasants. There are no other warring lords against the system. They're all in the system now. And that's why you got to you try to be a lord. Better to be a benevolent lord than to be a broke peasant, Joe. That's pretty much the way it is.
800-951-0592. Wrapping up this Thursday here as we continue to go through the year of chaos. I guess, are we going to see more chaos in 13 days from today, or 12 days, or down to 12 days now?
Feels like it.
Certainly. Boy, it really does, doesn't it? It really does. I don't know. I get a feeling if Israel's going to do it, I think it's this weekend. Otherwise, right, might as well wait for I don't know. I truly don't know. I do know this. The way things are going right now in Ukraine, whoever the next president is, why do I got this horrible feeling? We need hundreds of billions of dollars for the Ukrainians. Who's going to pay for it all? Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason, 800-951-0592.